from Los Angeles, this is the Echelon Radio Network.
So this is Jerry Hemsworth with the Echelon Radio Podcast, and I'm sitting today with James Bean of SVN. How are you?
I am well. Thanks for having me, Jerry.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Tell me, what is SVN and what does that stand for?
Thank you for asking that question. I really appreciate that. So SVN, it's the new version of the old Sperry Van Ness. Sperry Van Ness was a commercial brokerage that had started in the late 80s by a couple of guys by the name of Rand Sperry and Mark Van Ness. And they were a couple of Marcus Millichap guys that came up with a better mousetrap than Marcus and Millichap's and decided to go off on their own. And unfortunately, parted ways, early 2000s. And when they parted ways, Mark bought out Rand. Rand had to go quiet for 5 years. And over that time, Mark built what is now known as the Shared Value Network, SVN. We are the only commercial brokerage, international commercial brokerage, that is completely transparent even to the public. We have a weekly call on Mondays where anybody, our competitors, the public, anybody can call in and listen to all the new inventory that we bring out each and every week. And it's a national call. We're in 9 other countries. We have 200 plus offices, all independently owned and operated, but all operate on the same corporate platform, a network of sharing value, the Shared Value Network.
Got it. And there, you have a specialty in commercial real estate.
I do.
Tell us about that.
So I purely focused on investment sales. I don't do leasing. I don't really do user sales. I'm
Strictly
focused on
investment.
People that own properties for investment are my clients. And I'm also a national 1031 expert. There's not many. A lot of brokers can do a 1031 exchange. They know how to do it. But the issue is in order to perform a successful 1031 exchange, it takes a lot of planning. And the planning for the exchange should really begin before the property owner even puts the property that they're going to relinquish on the market.
Wow. So we're talking a span of years, or where should that time frame? In a perfect world, the time frame would be what, for example?
You could probably do it 90 days.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. But it's a plan.
Depending on how much property they have to relinquish would depend on how long you need to, if they have a portfolio full of property, then 6 months to a year. Obviously, with any kind of planning, the more time you have, the better the plan is. But that exchange should really be mapped out so that they know what their options are. Are they going to achieve our investment goals, et cetera?
What would you say is the biggest mistake you see people making before they enter into this? Or do they come to the table too late? Or what is a big flaw or misconception even that people have about it?
Well, when you sell your property, you have 45 days from the day of close to identify the properties that you want to exchange into. And most people you can identify 3 properties. There's 2 other identification rules. We don't need to get into that. But the most common is that they think that 45 days is plenty of time. And it's not. You need to, in fact, many of my clients are closing their properties within those 45 days. Especially in the world we live in today.
Yeah.
The market for exchange options is extremely volatile and has a tremendous amount of velocity. So it's kind of like getting on the 101 freeway. You know, If you don't get on there at
Sure.
80 miles an hour, you're
Sure.
going to get run over.
Yeah.
So
So a lot of people are just not aware of how much time and traffic or capacity is going through, and stuff is getting done during that time.
yes, this is why more than 60% of exchanges fail every year.
Really?
Yes.
60%. Ooh, that's tough. That's really tough. So what do you bring to your clients? What is the, what do you hear most often with, when they come back and go, gosh, James, thank you so much. How do they compliment you the most?
How smooth it went. I've been doing this long enough to where I have now built my own national network of brokers that I can reach out to. I have easy access to more inventory than your typical broker does, because I've developed close personal relationships with brokers all over the country. There's 15 to 20 brokerages that are the major players, and they're spread out all over the country. And I can literally pick up the phone, and many of them, I have their cell phone numbers, the owners of these brokerages, not just the agents of the brokers. And so having that access, I've basically have built the well-oiled machine.
That's fantastic.
So there's no guessing.
Yeah. So are you seeing any trends as to where, and forgive me because I'm not that up on 1031 exchanges and especially for investment properties. Are there trends where people like to exchange in different areas of the country? Or do you see people, like everybody's going towards Tennessee right now or towards Florida, or is it pretty much anywhere and everywhere? Is it the wild, wild west?
It's actually a great question. Many times the people that I represent are typically exchanging for the first time. Okay. So, and many of them aren't even familiar with the property types that I offer to them. And I actually speak about the myths of the 1031 exchange. And one of the common myths is that people automatically assume that a commercial investment property comes with a lot of maintenance and management.
Sure.
Typically it does, but there's other options that are actually zero responsibility and zero management. Mailbox money is what we refer to it as, because that's literally what it is. As far as areas, the common thing is out of California.
Yeah.
Because I can, in most cases, double the yield, the annual yield of what you could receive on your property if you're willing to go outside of California.
Gotcha.
And it's getting to be more and more willing to go east of the Mississippi. You know, because states like Nevada and Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Idaho, these states are gaining a lot of popularity as well because of their proximity to California.
Sure.
So many times the client will ask me, well, what states are better? And there are some from tax purposes, although a lot of it doesn't really matter unless you live in that state. The first question I ask people is, where do you like to travel? And so I have sold many properties in the Carolinas because it's a great destination. I've had a lot of my clients are golfers and they love golf trips. And so, hey,
beautiful.
you go take a golf trip to the Carolinas and ride it off because you went to visit your property.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's gorgeous. And plus you're on a coast if you like the beach, the Outer Banks. We've vacationed there. But we've heard of more and more people looking at going to the Carolinas. Yeah.
Tennessee is a popular state too, by the way.
That's what it keeps coming up in conversations, Tennessee. But I think people are especially with COVID and being able to work remotely, I think I'm hearing a lot more conversations of people moving and being able to work remotely. So I'm hearing a lot of just openness to people and businesses being outside of California. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to switch gears on you here because you like to perform. I learned that about you. Karaoke?
Yes.
Karaoke. Where do you hit a karaoke place here locally?
Actually, Ventura's got a couple of places. My favorite right now is a place called Gigi's Lounge. It was, before the pandemic, your just absolute textbook dive bar.
Really?
Which is always the best karaoke spot.
Yeah.
However, over pandemic, they completely gutted the place and remodeled it.
Oh.
And it doesn't have the same
It's not
vibe.
divey enough. You like the divey joints.
Sure. You want divey lighting. You don't want to be on stage with really good lighting.
Yeah, you're modern and
Right.
what the heck? What is that about?
But the guy that did it there before, actually, it's this older gentleman that had designed this software and made it like the best karaoke experience possible, because everything was on a computer and you logged into the computer and you put all the songs you wanted to do. Plus it kept him on track because everybody was just automatically in order. Plus he would bring a handful of props for you to use, guitars and other things. And they had a nice stage there. They do still have a nice stage. Stage is important.
Yes.
I don't need a mic. I just need a stage.
But you also, we were just talking about stand-up comedy.
Yes.
And you said as a kid, you wanted to be a comic or a stand-up comic, or what was that like for you as a kid? What was your dream?
Well, back then, in the 70s, it was really about just, being funny to an audience. I don't think they really called it stand-up comedy back then, although, just being a comedian, right? Growing up, I loved Bob Hope and, Jerry Lewis and, Richard Pryor.
George Carlin?
George Carlin, yeah. In fact, I have a new opening that I just used on some open mic night stuff where I said, I've always wanted to be George Carlin, and now here I am, the oldest guy in the room, and I'm on stage.
Ta-da!
So I can remember, our earliest memory as a kid was a Christmas. Well, first and foremost is I had a pair of uncles, my mom's brothers, that these guys, not only were they great joke tellers, but they had these just infectious laughs. And so us kids, the grandkids would, whenever we were together for like Thanksgiving or Christmas, is we'd all get together and it's like, hey, we need to tell Uncle Marv or Uncle Tony some jokes so we can hear these guys laugh. And so that's kind of how it started. And then I remember one specific Christmas where my younger brother had gotten one of those built-in mic Panasonic tape recorders.
Yes.
The really cool ones. Remember
Yes.
they came in all the colored plastics?
Yeah.
And we were all upstairs. The kids were all upstairs, and we had a tape in, and we just started, I don't know. I would love to recreate that because it was like we were doing our own little comedy skits and recording it and just having a blast, and recording toilet flushing and, stupid stuff. But we took it downstairs and played it for the adults, and they were all crying. I mean, just howling. It was just a really great experience. And so I think that fueled some of it through. By the time I was in my early 20s, I got turned on to being a mobile disc jockey. I did over 150 wedding receptions in about a 3-year period.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. I was crashing weddings long before the movie. But it was because some of the people that I was studying under and watching around comedy is like, it's all about mic time. You got to get on stage, get stage time, and figure out your shtick, I guess. Yeah. So it's evolved from there.
And you mentioned that you actually took a class in the early 2000s about being a stand-up comic or a comedian. And that was in Phoenix?
It was.
Yeah. And how long was that class?
It was a 9-week course.
9 week.
Yeah, community college course.
And what was the final?
We had to literally do a 5-minute act in front of a live crowd at an actual comedy club.
And you were pumped to do that.
I was.
But whereas other people were terrified and said, I'm out.
Yes.
Right? How often do you get to perform now?
Well, I've just recently learned that there's a couple of places in Ventura that have open mic nights. So I could literally do it 2 nights a week, every week if I wanted. Right now, I've got years worth of comedy riffs written, just pages and pages and pages of things. And so right now I'm looking to create another 5-minute act. Both of the places, the open mic opportunities are 5 minutes. And so right now I'm in the process of doing that with the hopes of ultimately getting on to the Ventura Harbor Comedy Club.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not looking to do it for a living. I just want to, I'm totally fine with being a 5-minute guy.
Yeah.
That 5 minutes I did for my final, I had more than 40 hours into it.
Wow.
From the writing and crafting, and, I brought 8+ years of professional speaking. So, I got to be where I was very technical, and when I think about all the time I took to rehearse that. In fact, I took 2 days off of work before the final, and that's all I did for 16 hours was run that thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Do you write every day?
Almost.
Really? Do you have like a journal or a notebook where it's all there?
I wish.
Yeah.
If you remember, there's a great Seinfeld. Do you ever watch Seinfeld?
Sure, of course.
So there was an episode where Jerry was the same thing. Whenever you get an idea, you'd write it down.
Yeah.
And so this episode was he woke up in the middle of the night having a dream, and it woke him up that he's like, oh, that's a great comedy bit. But he was half asleep, and he scribbled something on the pad, and the next morning he couldn't. He's like, what the hell does that say? So I totally identify with that, because that's what I do is I have notepads all over my house. Even on my phone. If you look at my phone right now, the note thing on the iPhone is I got comedy riffs on there. Or I'll turn on my microphone. I'll be driving down the road.
Yeah, recording it.
Driving down the road, and I'm like, I need to Siri, launch microphone. And then I get off on a tangent. Come on, Siri.
And she says, not again.
No, it's
Come
when
on,
she
James.
repeats something else. That's not what I said.
I said microphone.
That's part of my routine that I'm working on right now is that, I'm old enough to remember black and white TV, but I'm young enough to appreciate the technology.
Sure.
Except when Siri doesn't hear what I say.
Yeah, and then Siri, yeah, I understand 100%. Thanks for being with me here, James. It was really, really fun. And I want to come see you. I want to let us know when you're doing your stand-up. I want to come laugh. Yeah,
the Ventura Harbor has a thing where they'll give you 5 minutes if you bring 10 guests.
Really?
Yeah. Shocking why they would allow you to do that, but
but 10,
I have no doubt
5.
that I could.
You need 2 people. You need one person for every 30 seconds.
Right.
So that's some currency. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Presented by Echelon Business Development. More than just networking. Way more.